Hello guys, hope we had like a really good week. Now I'm gonna just be taking a recap on the intraday moves that occurred in on Friday. So for people who are like looking at intraday moves, yeah, this is like a really good opportunity to be able to see where we were kind of intraday. At the moment, we're looking at cable. So obviously we're looking at an intraday move in cable. This would be a good sort of opportunity to kind of catch where we all are in terms of movement. And we're going to be looking at a lot of volume price analysis. Obviously it's a huge weapon when we're trying to think about activity taking place in the market. So again, this is major. So first and foremost, let's take what I always do when I come to a chart from the previous day is kind of find out what the previous day's high was and what the previous day's low was. So obviously this is the start. This line here kind of denotes 22nd of January. So we're kind of looking at that running into that sort of Friday session. Let's just have a look at the date just to make sure I round it. So this was actually Thursday. So I'm just gonna narrow this down and get it onto kind of Friday. So yeah, so let's just basically get into that early session. So I'm actually right, actually. So this is the 23rd of January. So this was like being Friday, and this is well, the session starts at 10. So we might as well just include the 22nd at 10. So we want to be able to see what went on. So let's just get this zero out this last candle. So we know obviously this is we're still technically in just approaching the close of Thursday session. So if we're going to think of it from the day's low and the day's high, we want it. So this is 9 o'clock, and so this for me will be the previous day's low, and then I'll just start the next day from 10 o'clock. So let's just get this here. So let's just put in a kind of a support line to look at the previous day's low and the previous day's high, so which was right there. So we kind of got that. So we now have this kind of a range against the previous day. So we had pretty much, for the most part, it was a completely bearish day on Thursday, and then we come into Friday, and obviously completely new day. So anything can go wrong or anything can go right. But the idea is we want to kind of know where we are in terms of where we are on the chart. So again, like a very famous analogy is, if you don't know who the loser is, it's probably you. So we kind of want to know who's winning, who's in charge. And we know that there's been some massive sellers in play from the previous day. So technically this is a bearish chart. So I mean, against the previous day we're bearish. So now what we're going to do is, we're going to come into, so we get the close of the day, and we get this massive like spike. So let me come off bars for a second. Let me go to candlesticks. There's a lot of people more familiar with candlesticks. So we get this massive buy action, drives the price up. Now here's the key. This is what volume does for you. Now let's look at the volume associated with that move. Yeah, it's right here. So that's not a lot of volume. So I mean, we're looking at an hourly chart here. This is not a lot of activity. Yeah, so we get this bullish move, and this is the median right here. So this is like an average, kind of average to high move, and anything above is pretty much very decent volume. So what we get here is this weak volume and this huge spike, which tells me that this is a test. So the market maker is testing the lows. They're basically trying to feel for demand. So they're trying to figure out where demand is, where supply is. So the market makers tested these lows. So this is like a low volume test. All right, so we got a low volume test, and that's to close the session. So price gets whipped down, and that low of 149.70 gets tested, and it gets whipped back up again. So that's it basically. So we got that low volume test, and then we roll in. So now now that we kind of know also where we are, so we know that we're kind of bearish, I'm gonna close this off. So now we're gonna start the new day. So we come into the new day, and it's like, when the Asia session, or rather the Sydney session, and we get the price open, and then what do we get? We get some very low volume again. We get another low volume test, and then we get some high volume, slightly higher volume. I mean, this is a Sydney session on cable, and we get volume which is pretty much a little bit above the normal as expected in the Sydney session, and it comes at the high. So what we're going to look for is we're going to look for the high. So it comes at the high of 150.26. So we're going to make note of this. So we got a high at 150.26, and we got some selling pressure. Right now, the volume obviously is risen, and it's risen against the bearish move. So we got a lot of selling pressure, and it's early in the session. So this is a cue to think, well, in Asia, in the Asia session where there's really low liquidity against this pair, you see this kind of move. So in my opinion, I'm going to mark this out as a potential high of the day. Considering we're also coming bearish, this has a strong potential to be a high on the day, because we saw some significant volume in the Asia session right down here. So we can even put like a little tick cross down here just to kind of denote where we saw that anomaly, right on that volume bar. And look at that, and then we get a bullish move. So a very strong bull candle. Now look at the difference between this candle and say a similar candle, say roughly, well, crikey, let's find a similar candle. So let's look at this bullish candle, which is kind of close, yeah. And look at the volume accompanying that candle, and look at the volume accompanying this candle. So this tells me that, hang on a second, we got a bull move after significant volume and selling pressure, and we get almost like an open or close, which tells me that the market maker just marked this price up, and there's no real activity behind it. So this is poor volume, so I know this is a fake move. So now I'm getting more confidence that my high has been established. So now my general idea, if I'm coming into intraday, so I'm in like the Sydney session, then I'm thinking to myself that it's a good idea to kind of sell the market coming in to the London session. However, I'm asleep, so I don't have a fucking clue what's going on at the moment in the Asia session because I'm asleep. So I'm going to think of this I'm going to be looking at in hindsight when I wake up in the morning. So I'm going to fast forward and kind of ignore what's going on here, because what follows is what we expect, is a decline in price. So we get this mini markdown, and we see volume kind of rising along with the markdown, with a few blips of course, and then finally testing out some lows. So let's take it. So we wake up, like normally I'd kind of hit the session around about 7 a.m. So I want to be in the market by 7. So I kind of want to know what I'm doing by 6, and so by 7 I'm in the market. So now all this markdown has happened whilst I'm asleep, and we know that there's been intent to sell the market. So it's not really a markdown, it's really a lot of selling pressure pushing the market lower. So now I wake up at 7 o'clock and our market's had a significant move lower, and we've got a lot of volume start to pop in at these lows, yeah. And then finally I wake up and I get into the market probably roughly about 7, and I see a low and I see a high. Well, I know this high here is lower than the high here. So if people have sold it in the Asia session and people woke up in the morning and they're looking to sell again, then I want to see a lot of volume coming in against these highs to give me confidence the market's going to sell off. So I get a high here, it's a lower high, I get some volume, I get a higher high and I get some volume. So I kind of thinking, well, there's an intent here to continue selling this market, but I'm seeing this spiky action at this point in time. So I want to be a bit more patient. And I've also seen what is a significant low of the day. So this hasn't really happened yet. So what I've got is 149.61 coming in as a significant low of the day. So right at this point, this is the lowest low I've seen, and I'm coming now into the London session, and the time is, at this point, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I've seen good volume pop in, so this doesn't exist. I see a lot of volume, and it's testing this low, because I'm going to put more priority to this low than I am going to put into this high, just for the simple reason that this low is more significant in terms of what would you want to buy. So if you're thinking about buying something cheap, you're going to try and look for the cheapest price. And there were good prices before that interested parties in the market would be waiting, would have limit orders, would have taken, but they didn't take. So why are they going to start selling now at 7 a.m.? So I'm kind of associating this volume, for argument's sake, with buying. So I've got my low. So I know that. So I've marked that off as 149.62. So that's a good area to buy if you're going to think to buy. So now I'm into the London session, and I want to see what happens after the economic releases at 9. So again, come at 9:30, I get massive bearish move, and I test another low. And look at the volume now that accompanies that low. Seeing all the economic data would have started to get ready to stream out, and there will be a lot of people who will be knowing what's going on. So I get a huge volume at that low. That's telling me that buying is returning to the market, and it's probably going to lead the London session. So what I'm trying to do now is trying to get into the market at a good price to buy it. So now the market pushes up. There's not much intent to go along at this point, so we get some volume at those lows here. We marked up 49.70 up, so some people probably came in and bought it, and then we got a mark down back into that level, and then we get a continued mark down, and then we hit this low at one. So let's drop this a bit. So I'm going to add another line. So we hit this low at 149.50, and then what happens then? We get a huge volume spike. Now this is my cue. At this point in time, I get this kind of momentum. Now how different is this to the initial test that we got earlier in this session in terms of volume? Now this tells me this is strong buying, and it's like midday in approaching the New York, but it's still in the London session, and I get this boom out of 49.50. And it takes me right back in to that 49.70 area that was initially a good area to buy. So right at this time, I'm going to go long. So on the open of this candle, so I've got a higher close at 49.73, and I'm going to go long, right? And I get a complete pivot, which gives me more confidence to hold into the trade. And what am I looking for? I'm looking to take this move on an intraday base to the high. So I remember we talked about the high in the morning of 150.26. Now any selling I expect would come out of that high. So I'm going to ride the price action, and I'm going to have my targets around about here. Now I've got a good entry at this point, and I'm going to get my stops underneath the absolute low of 49.50. So I just want to kind of sit underneath it, maybe 149.48 thereabouts. At this point in time, I've seen a good move, a complete pivot. I'm holding in. I've got the market push up on this move, good volume, so it says the buyer's in control. We start to see sellers come in close to the high. So I'm going to assume that we've got momentum, and sellers have come and tried to sell it down. So now the wick's narrowing out, so I know the move is not going to last, and I get a final move, huge bull effort straight into that selling zone, and then the market halts and it cuts back, and I get a simple pivot. Right at this point, the market starts to roll lower, and the volume's falling off. So right now I'm thinking to myself, it's time to get out. But like I said, because we have targets, we would have been looking to get out around about 150.26. So that kind of sells off. And what time does that take us in? Well, by the time we got the bull move out of London, we were in New York around about 1 o'clock, going into 1:30. So we're in New York now, and the move continues. As obviously people come up in America, and they obviously at night they're trying to buy this market or looking for an opportunity to sell it, and then it comes in here. So around about 4 o'clock, we see liquidation starts to go on, sellers start to come in again, and now what do we get? We're getting some really low volume running into the close of the day. So this has been pretty much, in my opinion, a kind of balanced day. So we got a huge sell-off, Asia into London, and a huge buy-up, London into New York. So we got like a balanced day. So this is kind of the point where, you know, it just became a pretty normal day. So that's kind of it, really. So when you're thinking about intraday opportunities, we're thinking about it across sessions. We want to know what the good highs are, the good lows are, and what's the volume associated with that. So again, hopefully this has got like some really good perspective in terms of how we can approach volume in an intraday basis and just take the highs and the lows of the day. So we get a good opportunity and we can make some good pips without even thinking too much about it. So again, it's a really simple strategy. It's really just about taking those lows and those highs. But yeah, guys, I'll keep you guys abreast. I thought this was a good session to do on VPA. So again, we got some Elliott wave counts here which kind of help us understand where we are in the cycle. But all in all, have a great weekend, and yeah, talk to you guys soon.